Good evening. Wanted to do a quick update. Just had a huge rally, was away from the computer and the charts over the weekend for Memorial Day. Wanted to do a quick update and just kind of do a blast. This really will be very fast, just be an overview to see what has happened and where we are. So let's start by lecture. Let's start with Bitcoin. Big overview here. Bitcoin is heading toward its reflection box. The center of this reflection box is 11,260, 70, something like that, 11,002, 11,003. However, the first major resistance point is here, the 37.5% line. This will be approximately 92.45. This is at Kraken. It'll be a little bit differently for each exchange, but the point is we are really close. I did not realize we actually were this close. It's been a few days since I've looked at this chart, but we're real close. We're in a bull market, so we expect there to be some throw over on the 37.5% line. Could be a flash, could be a bona fide several day rally. That would make sense. And if we actually overthrew 10,000, it would actually be, what I would expect. However, it doesn't all have to happen right now. We could easily do all of that after a small sideways movement and then pushing higher. We could push higher up to the 9,300 mark and fade back and then come back through and finish at 10,000. Either way, I do believe when we make our first run up to 10,000, I think we'll actually cross the 10,000 line. I believe just as we have just crossed the 87.50 line and have printed above it, as we have every single other frame. This is what happens in a bull market. I'd like to explain that for just a second. If we look at how this market has unfolded, what we will see is that the frame lines are all too low. That's the way to say it. They're all too low, meaning they don't contain the price action. They're all too low. So here is a rally from the bottom. The Murray Math line could not contain it. It was there. It stopped for a second, but then it broke right through, gyrated around it, retraced below it, but essentially was always above the Murray Math line. This is what you're looking for in a bull market. In the next time it ran up to the next Murray Math line here at 5,000, it also overshot 5,000 and went sideways and then continued on. Next, it went up to the 5/8 line. It also overshot 5/8. It barely even stopped. It was there for a second at 6,200 or 6,250. Overshot it. And then it even overshot 7,500 on the way up. It actually, if you look through here, it overshot 7,500 not just once but twice. Came back, got support, gyrated around it, and then went up to the next frame. Here we are at 87.50. Again, you will see that it shot through it. So it is likely that it will shoot through it. If it does not shoot through it, then we know we are in for a nice deep retracement. So at any point that it doesn't make it up there, it gets a little bit confusing because you're thinking, well, it needs to continue on and go ahead and break through that 10,000 line, and that would be correct. However, if you fail to maintain trend and you break out of trend and you have not broken through here, then you know the retrace will be deep. If you come up here and touch this, at least you know the retrace will be shallow. So it's not either or. It becomes very difficult. We'll talk about that more as we get closer. The point is that the 10,000 line, when it comes, we expect it to overshoot it. When it eventually crosses it, we expect it to overshoot it, and it can come short. In between here and 10,000, what type of resistance do we have? We have the 37.5% line, which is here. I'm going to adjust this slightly. This is 92.55. This is anchored off of this high here. This one here. That's this one, and this one. These are all four highs. The blue 62% line has just been broken. This is very bullish. We expected this, of course, because we had this fundamental four wave going on right below it. So it's underneath the four wave was being contained by the 62.5% reflection box. This blue box was tied to this high. Of course, it just took that out. But of course it did because it was building underneath it. It was a continuation move and it broke through. So we maybe we'll see the same thing here. Maybe we'll be building up underneath this box and then we'll break through and then break through 10,000. So that's my highest probability result of what we will be seeing in BTC. So we're going to draw this out for the folks. We expect something like this. We expect to be captured here and then break through and go beyond 10,000. And the analysis will continue later. This would be the bullish result. If we had the bearish result, what would that look like? That would look like perhaps it comes up. What's a nice way to represent this? Let's just say it comes up short, maybe here. I'm going to switch this one to green. All right, so as you can see, the inevitability of getting up into this range, both scenarios contain this. One scenario has it making the new 10,000. One of them has it coming up short and then taking a fantastic retrace. If we were to continue on the green one, it may look shallow. It may only do, something like this and then come back up. So lots of data is going to happen up here, but either way, it looks like we have some more highs in front of us, at least up into the 9,300. We're at 8,800 or so now. We're talking about 93, 88, 500 points or so. Not that much could happen in a flash, so everybody should be prepared for that. The breaking of this purple price line will really indicate when we're in trouble. So we have some room to be able to go sideways. We're going to zoom in on this a little bit so we can get a little bit better look. We've got some room here. We've got some room to be able to go sideways and rebuy here at BTC 8,400 perhaps. And even if we see, say, BTC 8,300, I'd be a buyer. 83, 84, these are all good buys. However, I wouldn't hold them too long. I might hold them to make new highs, but I probably would just liquidate them at 8,800 just about every time and not really do a lot of work. If I were inclined to hold it, yeah, sure, I probably would hold it. Maybe I wouldn't hold it any much further than about 9,250. I don't really want to see the flash here. This thing happens pretty fast. So there you are on Bitcoin. We're going to zoom in a little bit and take a look at a different market. Take a look at Ethereum here. And we're going to see a couple things here. The first thing I want to point out is Ethereum did not make a new high. Ethereum didn't make a new high. Let's go back and look at BTC. BTC made a new high. Ethereum not making a new high. Can't say that's bullish for the Ethereum fans out there. You know who you are. Ethereum did not make a new high. However, Ethereum has a whole lot of space to run before it gets to the same place that we're seeing as problematic for BTC. And that's a lot of move. That's 280 all the way to 360. That's damn near 80 points. How does that resolve itself? Perhaps it only gets to the half line and comes up short. That's very likely. That could be very likely. Could also be that it makes it all the way and BTC runs past. We don't know. Speculating that is a little early, but for right now, we're at the top of the attic for ETH. This is very problematic. No one need to continue to hold ETH here. You can rebuy ETH, at some discount right above 250. You may even see it at 236. I would not be holding ETH above anything right now. It is clearly in the attic. The amount of profit left in ETH it needs a reset somewhere. You don't want to be buying here. Let me just put it that way. Whenever it gets to a different position, we'll be able to discuss it more. But ETH here is a bit dangerous. It needs to print some W's, and you can buy those W's and sell them at the top of the W's and do quite well. And there'll be a lot of structure here that'll let us know before it's going to break out. If it's going to hit another leg, we'll see it. It's just not right here. I just can't say it's right here. Let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash, similar market. It has an even further way to go than ETH. We're talking about prices here, 440 at this present time, 444, 443. 438, I guess is what that says. Yeah, 438. And its equal reflection box is in the 724 range. So it's damn near 300 points up there. Is it going to get there at the same time that BTC is turning around? Is it going to get there at the same time that ETH is turning around? You know, I am not sure. I wouldn't expect it. The variations here are too different. I think these targets will be achieved at different points in the wave for each one of these markets. I don't believe they're all going to be just synchronized. I do believe that the next easy target for BCH will be 500. I believe 500 will get taken out quite easily, and actually here near 597, the old particle line from the old bear market, I think that will contain pretty much any of the rally that we have just right in front of us. Now we'll update that too. We don't need to look that far ahead. But what we can see now is just a ton of support down here. This thing like ETH could clean out, and I could get a little drop to 406 again. Wouldn't expect much more than 406. I saw 406. I think that's a great bargain, and I'd be looking to sell that thing at 500 a few times until it coiled around 500, and then eventually ride it up here. So lots of room left in BCH, but it needs a little pullback. Let's finish the conversation by rounding all the way back out to BTC one more time. We're saying BTC is going to go sideways primarily in and around this level. If BTC was going to see a pullback, it would pretty much have to stop right around 8,300. Now, you've seen BTC do this a lot. It has very, very, very low volatility. Look at these volatility periods here. This is all the way from mid-January all the way through April, just an extremely tight range, and then it takes off, and then it's another extremely tight range through the major part of the month of April. And then even here, after this one pullback, despite this one spike, it's still in a very tight range for about a week and a half. So we can expect that this will also be another very tight range type situation. It can do it. It's not abnormal. And while this thing is having its somewhat tight range situation that may or may not occur, we may see, you know, a lot larger volatility. You can see here this was climbing pretty clearly the entire time. BTC was almost flat for this enormous period of time, and then here I guess you could say that then they look a little bit closer, but even here, switching right back, you can see BTC has these large gaps, and then there's just tons of space, nothing in the middle, no retracements in the middle. Looking at Ethereum, you can see that it fills this gap here, returns here, and then once it takes off, it doesn't fill this exact same gap. But so more similarities now, less in the past. Looking at Bitcoin Cash, we get the same kind of general idea, just not as dramatic. So here you can see it was flat for a while and then began to rise pretty steadily. Doesn't have that huge gap that BTC exhibits. So it may receive a huge gap in order to catch up. You would expect more volatility out of BCH or perhaps out of ETH here, and you can simultaneously expect lower volatility in BTC. Now, percentage-wise, they definitely will be much lower volatility in BTC. Of course, that's expected with a huge 8,000 handle on BTC. The actual volatility will be lower, but you get the idea. That's how all three chart patterns could coincide. Major wave all still up. Lots of possibilities for different ways to try to reach up there and grab one more high. And the big takeaway is perhaps that after you see that next high, it could be shorting season. I know that sounds insane right about now, but honestly, it probably would be a great time to start laying down shorts. If that's not your thing, then just exit the market and wait for a bit more significant pullback. Now, there'll be lots of little day trading entries that you can continue to ride long up here, and we'll do what we can. But the major takeaways here, you know, let's take a look at the BTC frame. I mean, we are nearing the top of the frame. You wouldn't think we'd be saying this. You know what? It's been a month, maybe a month and a half, and here we are, probably knocking on 10,000's door.